Well, Gary Payton II was playing his first game back since the NBA Finals last year. Unfortunately, the results were not what Dub Nation and the Warriors themselves were looking for, as the Warriors fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves at home for the first time since 2016. That's the last time Minnesota won there. We're going to break that down. The show must go on, win or lose. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com. Use the promo code Locked On. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. You can follow this program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. So I wasn't planning on a show tonight. I was actually supposed to go to the game originally, but life happens, schedules interfere, so I ended up staying home. And I wasn't going to do a show originally because when they lose, it's just not as good of a time. But the show must go on. Like I said a moment ago. Hello, everyone who's joining us on the chat. I want to start the show off on a lighter note. This was Gary Payton II's first game since the NBA Finals last year. It took a while for him to finally suit up for the Warriors. Approximately 20 games since the trade for him to finally play. He played, and I thought he played well. He played great, actually, despite the loss. Here, in fact, is Gary Payton II talking about his experience back with the Golden State Warriors.
I'm sure you imagine what that would be like when you checked in. Did it live up to your expectations?
I didn't have any. I already knew it was love, since I've been back from Dub Nation. So, that's just a nice welcome home. But, I mess with Dub Nation like that, so it's all love.
Yeah, it was awesome that he played. It's awesome that he's back with the Warriors. You saw his impact. Unfortunately, Gary Payton II, I thought, played great basketball. I'll read his stat line for you real quick. He played 15 minutes, 29 seconds, was 3 for 4 from the field, hit a crucial three-pointer late in the game. He was 1 for 2 from beyond the arc. He's always been a serviceable three-point shooter, especially from the corner. He had one trip to the line, made both his free throws, had 2 rebounds total, one of them offensively, finished the game scoring 9 points, even had a block. But really, this game, the reason why the Warriors lost, it was 2 things you could point it to specifically. One are the absolutely costly turnovers throughout the game, and especially at the end of the game. You had Draymond Green just with a horrible pass with the Warriors. I can't remember if I think the Warriors were leading at that point before Karl Anthony Towns hit a 3-pointer to win it. That ended up being the game winner, essentially. That was the difference. The Warriors were leading. Draymond Green with just a horrible pass. And that resulted again in an open 3-point shot for Karl Anthony Towns. And then Jordan Poole, the Warriors had a chance to tie the game at least with it. And then Jordan Poole just with a very poor pass attempt to Stephen Curry, and those 2 turnovers were the difference. That was it. The Warriors were winning. And then Draymond, again, they were up 96-95. Draymond makes a bad pass. Kyle Anderson, who was eating up the Warriors tonight, he had a great game, makes the steal, gives it to Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns hits a 3. That suddenly makes the score, instead of 96-95 Warriors, with them having the ball, it's now 98-96 Minnesota. The Warriors call a full timeout. And then right after that is when Jordan Poole had the other turnover. And again, this was just what should have been an incredibly easy pass to Stephen Curry. Instead, for some reason, Poole misreads where Curry is going. The ball goes out of bounds. Jaden McDaniels makes 1 of 2 free throws, so it remains a 1-possession game. But the Warriors, after a first inbound attempt that Klay Thompson was fouled on before the shot, The Timberwolves had a foul to spare. So in the second chance with 2 seconds remaining, Stephen Curry missed was an incredibly difficult shot attempt from the corner, and the Warriors lose a very costly game. The reason why this was costly is because if the Warriors had won, they would have been 2.5 games up on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They would have clinched the head-to-head tiebreaker. Instead, the Warriors are now only a half game up on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the tiebreaker is even. They played each other 4 times. It's 2-2. So the next tiebreaker is conference record. That's going to decide which team will have the higher seeding come playoff time. And right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 26-20 in the Western Conference. The Golden State Warriors are 25-21. So if the season ended today and the Timberwolves somehow ended up tying the Golden State Warriors in the standings, which could very easily happen because the Warriors right now are 39-37 on the year. They still are holding the 6th seed. They still remain just a half game behind the Clippers. They remain 1 game behind the Suns, meaning if they had won this game tonight, they would have been tied for the 4th seed. That's how costly this loss was. Instead, they're now in the 6th seed, 39-37. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a half game behind them at 38-37. So if the Timberwolves win their next game, they will be tied record-wise, but the T-Wolves will have the tiebreaker based on conference record. And again, and this courtesy of Anthony Slater of The Athletic. He tweeted this out moments ago. That's where I'm reading you the last part of it. So again, the Timberwolves right now are 26-20 in the Western Conference, a full game ahead of the Warriors in terms of conference record. The Warriors are 25-21. So if they do end up tied, the Timberwolves will surpass them, sit in the 6th seed. The Warriors will drop to the 7th seed, and the Warriors currently hold a 1-game advantage over the New Orleans Pelicans, who are currently 37-37. They hold a 1.5 game lead over the LA Lakers, and they also hold a 1.5 game lead over the Oklahoma City Thunder. But again, this late in the season, for them to squander a home game that they really should have won, if you're a member of Dub Nation, you must be frustrated. I don't blame you. And I said there were 2 reasons why the Warriors lost this game tonight. The first, again, were those costly turnovers at the end. Draymond Green, that was about as horribly timed of a turnover as you could possibly have. And the moments later, Jordan Poole with another costly turnover. So that was undoubtedly one huge reason. And just to kind of expand on that, the Warriors had a lot of turnovers tonight. In fact, they had 16 turnovers total, which resulted in 24 points for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, in retrospect, had 17 turnovers. So they actually had 1 more turnover than the Warriors, but that resulted in 18 points. So in terms of points off turnovers, the Timberwolves outscored the Golden State Warriors 24-18. But the other reason is minute distribution. And again, this season has just not been a good look for Steve Kerr. His who he relies on at the end of games and who he's giving minutes to just is nonsensical. And I have to say that tonight because it resulted in a loss. And when you look at who got the minutes, it's absurd. So Dante DiVincenzo, who started this game again, and a lot of people have been calling for Jonathan Kuminga to maybe step into the starting role, mainly because of the fact that he brings more athleticism. He brings a lot more size at 6'8". But Steve Kerr continues to go with Dante DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo has been struggling offensively lately, and that struggle continued tonight. He scored just 2 points. He had 3 rebounds, had 2 assists, only had 1 shot attempt in 20 minutes of play. And in a night where the Golden State Warriors were held to below 100 points, I mean, they only scored 96. Offense is important. But so Dante DiVincenzo gets 20 minutes and whatever. I'm not sitting here complaining that DiVincenzo should have played more. But the players that got the short end of the stick tonight are players that the Warriors could have desperately used, especially when you consider the fact that when it comes to rebounding, the Golden State Warriors were out-rebounded in this game 49-37. They were killed on the glass. And the huge reason for that is because of how much larger of a team the Minnesota Timberwolves are. There were times tonight when they had lineups out there where their shortest guy on the floor was like 6'8", 6'9". And the Warriors responded by not giving minutes to their tallest, most athletic players. Jonathan Kuminga, who's been playing phenomenal basketball, a player who, when he gets over 25 minutes of play, The team wins over 70% of their games since the new year. He translates to winning. Yet for some reason tonight, Steve Kerr rewarded Jonathan Kuminga with 14 minutes and 45 seconds of play. He shot 50% from the field. He had 5 points on the night. But for some reason, Steve Kerr did not think his 6'8" height and his length and his athleticism was valuable against a Minnesota Timberwolves team that oftentimes has 2 7-footers out there in Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. A Timberwolves team that has Kyle Anderson as 6'9", playing 32 minutes tonight, scoring 12 points. Naz Reid played nearly 21 minutes tonight. He's another 7-footer. He's almost 7 feet. The Timberwolves are a long, tall team. And Kerr responded by completely giving the short end of the stick to his tallest players that could have maybe given an impact. Kuminga, only 14 minutes, 45 seconds, as I mentioned a moment ago. JaMychal Green, who's actually been playing great ball lately, who's one of the tallest players on this team. He played a whopping total of 3 minutes and 57 seconds. By the way, he was a plus 8 in the plus minus in those 3 minutes, 57 seconds. So safe to say that when he was out there, the Warriors were doing fine in that short amount of period. Yet Steve Kerr decides, we don't need you. We don't need your 6'9" height and your ability to space the floor because you can't shoot the three, even though that's been spotty this year. And then the third player that got no run, he got a DNP, is Moses Moody. The team's been winning lately. Moses Moody has been playing lately. So what does Steve Kerr do? He DNPs Moses Moody. Moses Moody is 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", depends on who your source is. But what isn't in dispute is his wingspan. He has a 7'1" wingspan. And for a lot of people who have doubted me all season, who have doubted me recently about my complaints for Moses Moody needing minutes on this team, I've heard from you, okay? I've seen the direct messages, I've seen the tweets, and any other way you can contact me telling me, yes, I'm seeing now what you've been praising all season, that Moses Moody should be playing for this team. Even if it's only 8, 9, 10 minutes, he should be out there. He got a DNP. Patrick Baldwin Jr., the tallest player on this team, he was called back up from Santa Cruz today, got a DNP. You think they need a 6'10" height? And there was also a lineup combination that I have to absolutely bring up, which was a complete disaster. And I don't think you needed to see it to learn that it was going to be a total disaster. I'll explain that and so much more in just a moment. But again, a lot of this has to fall on Steve Kerr. This was not a smart night from the coaching staff in terms of minute distribution. And that's single-handedly the biggest impact a coach can have on a game, is who decides, he decides, or she, who they decide will play in the game. That is a massive amount of power for anyone to have in the NBA, and that is the power of the head coach. And Steve Kerr decided tonight, Jonathan Kuminga, I'm going to keep you to 14 minutes, 45 seconds. JaMychal Green, I'm going to keep you to 3 minutes, 57 seconds. Moses Moody, love you, kid. I'm not going to play you tonight. Patrick Baldwin Jr., let's call you up from Santa Cruz so you can sit on the bench and play 0 minutes. He's been doing this all year, and the result, once again, is a disappointment. The Warriors, again, now 39-37. We'll have more in just a minute. I got to give some love to one of our now longtime sponsors and one of my favorite sponsors, because I actually engage and use the sponsor quite a bit, and that is PrizePicks. Where is PrizePicks in terms of the overlay for our YouTube show? There you are. So PrizePicks is super fun, folks. You've heard me talk about this, but if you're a new viewer or listener of Locked On, the premise is simple. It's all about over-unders for individuals. Is Jordan Poole going to score more or less than 24.5 points tonight? Is Stephen Curry going to score more or less than 29.5 points tonight? Is Draymond Green going to grab more or less than 7.5 rebounds tonight? Is Mike Conley going to dish out more or less than 8 assists in the night? That's how it works. It's over-unders, and you decide which player is going to score more or score less, pass more or pass less, and so forth. There's a lot of stats to choose from. There's a lot of players and sports to choose from. It is not just the NBA. It's fun, okay? And you don't have to deal with sketchy wire services to get your withdrawal. It's safe. It's easy. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with a promo code Locked On If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. And if you don't have $100, you only got $20, you only got $50. PrizePicks will match whatever you deposit when you first sign up. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Why don't we go back to the podium? Steve Kerr addressed the media, and he said that the Warriors didn't deserve to win. Yeah, yeah, it's obvious.
The fatal possession seemed to be that Draymond turnover with 14 seconds left. Was that an example in that situation of kind of like overpassing when Minnesota was
I just thought the final 2 minutes we didn't execute. I thought we had a chance at a layup in transition with about 2 minutes left. I think we had another possession where we turned it over. We just didn't execute down the stretch. So that was just one of many. So we didn't deserve to win. They outplayed us, made the plays down the stretch that they needed to make, and we didn't. So simple as that.
They didn't just outplay you, head coach Steve Kerr. They outcoached you. They went with lineups that were bigger. They went with lineups that were taller. They went with lineups that were longer. And as a result of that, your offense was held to 96 points tonight. And three of your longest, most athletic players who probably could have helped a lot and not have made this a close game where those turnovers at the end, which again were inexcusable by Draymond Green and by Jordan Poole. Inexcusable. Those are just dumb amateur turnovers, would not have the ramifications it had if the game wasn't so damn close. Gary Payton II, I mean, I'm just bummed that that Gary Payton II's first night was spoiled. I mean, this should have been a celebratory night. It felt like it near the very end, but these rotations were an absolute disaster. Gary Payton II, in his 15 minutes and 29 seconds, again scored 9 points. I thought he just picked up right where he left off. It's absolutely fantastic seeing him out there. But what I'm not happy about is where Gary Payton II's 15 minutes, 29 seconds came from. Basically, it came at the expense of Moses Moody, and it came at the expense of JaMychal Green. And again, this is where I just do not understand what Steve Kerr is doing. I don't understand what his infatuation is with Anthony Lamb. Lamb, by the way, played 17 minutes, 55 seconds. We could just round up those 5 seconds and say 18 minutes. And in those 18 minutes, a whopping 3 points. In those 18 minutes, 1 for 3 from the field. In those 18 minutes, 1 for 2 from beyond the arc. He had 2 3-point attempts. His second 3-point attempt in the fourth quarter was a timely miss. Would have been huge. They needed that. He missed it. Anthony Lamb, who Kerr relies on as one of his quote-unquote bigs, finished the game with 3 rebounds in those 18 minutes. That's not a lot. And he also had 1 assist. Anthony Lamb was -5 in the plus-minus. Again, for some reason, and this is where philosophically, I just wholeheartedly disagree with Steve Kerr, and I feel like most people do. And I'm not the only one. I want to make it very clear. Every single opinion that I espouse on this show runs through a checks and filter system. I run it by pro athletes. I run it by other media members. I discuss every single one of these things with insiders, just so that I'm not out of my mind. I do like to get perspective. Regardless of certain fans who strongly disagree and think Anthony Lamb deserves those 18 minutes tonight, I don't agree. And this has just been a debacle. One lineup that Steve Kerr had was a particular befuddlement, was a particular head scratcher. I'm going to talk about that when we come back. It was 3 players playing together that just had no business playing together at all. And I'll explain that in just a moment after I give some love to a sponsor that I personally love. And if you've bought these and you've tried them, you might love them as well. I've been losing weight because of them, and those are Built Bars. And right now, Built Bar is all about March Madness. In fact, the Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff if you've been eating Built Bars, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. My personal favorite, chocolate granola. They're not as chewy as the other ones. I love the little bits of granola that they throw in there. It's a little thinner, so but despite that, it's still got the protein. Which is on average 17 grams per bar. On average, it only has 130 calories per bar, which is really light, and only 4 grams of sugar. Yet you're still feeling full because of those 17 grams of protein. And look, my sports team in March Madness is my alma mater, Aztec for life, the San Diego State Aztecs, who defeated the top seed in the tournament, Alabama. Go SDSU. And folks out there, support your team, support your Built Bar. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you're going to be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built, the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing, you won't even think that they're good for you when you're trying them. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Look at the chat real quick. Rebellious writes, Kerr has just been so stubborn with overplaying Lamb. I agree. It is a stubbornness. I don't understand it. Him and Jeff Van Gundy I don't know if they're like buddies. I feel like every time I know Van Gundy wasn't calling tonight's game, but I feel like every time Van Gundy calls a game, he's just literally reading off Kerr talking points. Like he loved Lamb similarly. He was like, "Oh, Anthony Lamb, I remember him since high school, and he's amazing. And any team should be lucky to have him." And it's like, all right. Key Pintan writes, Moody was a plus the last few games. Sadly, less chance now. Well, I can't quite follow, but I see what you're saying. You wanted Moody. I wanted Moody. The team succeeds. They win when Moody plays. I don't get it. Jay writes, Lamb should play 15 minutes or less. I would not be complaining if Lamb was playing even better than that, 10 minutes or less. I'd be fine with that. I'm not saying Lamb is like a total detriment, but when he's stealing, when you're playing him over Kuminga, over Moody, over JaMychal Green, that's where I'm taking some issue here. It's the results show. This is not the Warriors are not consistently winning games with this strategy and formula. The combo that I saw tonight, which made absolutely no sense, by the way, is real quick here. AC writes, your brother went to Florida Atlantic. Nice, congrats. I believe in Final Four, right? From the land of from Hella. That's a Bay Area resident right there. Writes, Wiggins is out for the season. Get over it, move on. Team was 500 with him. Well, it's worth noting Wiggins has not really had much of a year. He missed, 15 games when he was dealing with various illnesses. He just had such a string of bad luck. He had COVID and the flu separately, but right back to back. I mean, I do not envy that at all. I don't care if you're a millionaire or not. That sounded miserable. And it took him a while to get back in the swing of things. And literally the moment he gets back in the swing of things, bam, now he's out for who knows how long. I will say this, and I've been echoing these sentiments on other shows that I go on. Speaking of which, I'm joining my friend Larry Kruger in just a moment. If you want to continue the show and continue the Warriors talk there. But Andrew Wiggins, do not be surprised if he comes back. Never mind the fact that I actually had a source inside the Warriors just tell me today and kind of reconfirm that whatever this issue is, it's with his family. It is a family issue. The Warriors have not made that a secret. So, but whatever is going on with him, it's not necessarily affecting him directly, but it is a family member, and whatever is going on, I just really hope Wiggins is okay. But I also would not rule out Wiggins coming back. Don't be surprised if he does. I mean, this is someone who loves playing basketball. This is someone who loves playing for the Warriors. He took a pay cut to stay here. And this is someone who, I've said this before and I'll say it again, he was not down with the shot, with the vaccine shot. He did not want to inject the vaccine in his body, and he did so because Steph and Curry publicly went out and said, I don't want to say verbatim, but he basically said that Wiggins better get this thing and that they need him. And so what does Wiggins do? He gets the shot despite the fact that he didn't want to do it. He's proven time and time and again that he's willing to make sacrifices for the sport he loves, and that's basketball. I'm going to hold out hope that he's going to come back. I'm not saying he is, but just, don't rule it out. It hasn't been determined yet that he's not going to play. But the lineup tonight, I keep forgetting to say this. There's three players that should not be on the court together: Draymond Green, Gary Payton II, and Anthony Lamb. The Warriors' offense works when two of the five players are defensive-oriented players, meaning like they're out there more so for their defensive prowess than their offensive prowess. Draymond Green comes to mind, although offensively he's not really a liability because of how efficient of a ball handler he is, how efficient of a rebounder and passer he is. He's the point guard for this team often. Andre Iguodala, when he's healthy, is another player like that who is out there primarily for his defensive prowess. The Warriors' offense is okay if two of your five players are not offensive-minded players. When you go to three, you're going to start to stagnate. This has happened before, and Kerr, for some reason tonight, played this trio out there it was Draymond again, Gary Payton II, and Anthony Lamb. Anthony Lamb, yes, he's an okay three-point shooter. You might even say he's a great three-point shooter. His percentage hovers near 40%, although that's been tailing off lately and kind of reverting more to his career mean of 35. But nonetheless, he's not a liability out there in terms of three-point shooting. But he's also not a playmaker. He's not someone who creates shots on his own. He's not. He's just not an offensive machine. He's out there primarily, at least according to Kerr, because he's a great switch defender. Despite being 6'5", he's strong, so he's a decent rebounder, even though his wingspan is not nearly as long as Moses Moody, so he's not that efficient of a shot blocker. But creating shots is not his forte. That is not what he's out there for. Same goes for Draymond Green. Same goes for Gary Payton II. So when you have all three of those guys out there, and I think the other two players on the floor was Jordan Poole, who clearly offensively is a machine. And then I can't remember if Klay Thompson was one of the other players out there. I don't think it was Steph, but the moment I saw that, I tweeted this out, I was just thinking to myself, like, why are you stunting your offense, having three of your five players out there not being offensive, kickstarters, not being like offensive juggernauts? Like, the Warriors thrive the most when three of their five players in the lineup are incredibly efficient on the offensive side of the ball, and two of the five are not liabilities per se, but their role is much more to play solid defense. The moment you tinker with that balance, things kind of veer in a not so positive way, and we saw that tonight. The Warriors finished with 96 points. I didn't get a chance to do my research on this, but something tells me that was one of the lowest, if not the lowest output offensively all season long. And again, Steve, I just don't know. I just don't understand, like, this late in the season with these games carrying this much weight and importance, like, why are you tinkering like this? Like, why are you continuing to veer away from what's leading to success and going with whatever your instincts are telling you? I don't get it. I do want to mention as well, Klay Thompson did not have a great game tonight. He played 34 minutes, almost 34 minutes, 47 seconds. Only scored 15 points. This is starting to become a bit of a trend for Klay in terms of his offensive struggles. I want to pull up his stats in terms of what he's been doing over the last week or two, because I've been noticing a pattern here. Klay had an unbelievable January, had a career high in scoring in January, followed that up with a very solid February where his scoring just went down the slightest tick. But March has not been as friendly for him. And when I'm looking at the last 5 games, his scoring output has been 14. That's how much he scored in the loss against the Grizzlies. 29 in the win against the Rockets. 9 against the Mavericks. 9. He had 21 in Friday's win over the 76ers. And then tonight he's back down to 15. The Warriors need Klay Thompson. It is essential that the Klay Thompson, who is a three-point threat, who is one of the greatest offensive threats we've ever seen, needs to be out there playing like that, like the Hall of Famer that he's going to be. If this becomes like a pattern that continues, where he's giving you 15 points, where he's shooting 5 for 17 from the field. I mean, I think there was a stretch there where he missed 8 threes in a row. Don't quote me on that. I remember hearing Fitz say that. That's not good. That's just not good. That's not going to help. So Klay did not play great. Stephen Curry didn't have the greatest of nights either. The Splash Brothers are laying a bunch of eggs lately. Steph did have 20 points on the night, but he shot just 8 of 23 from the field. He only shot 4 of 13 from the 3-point line. I mean, that's hovering around like 30%. I think maybe even less than that. That's just not good. He did grab 6 rebounds, did have 9 assists, but finished with just 20 points, well below his season average. And then Jordan Poole, despite the costly turnover at the end, he did finish with 3 turnovers on the night. By the way, Klay and Steph each also had 3 turnovers. Draymond Green had 5 turnovers. Jordan Poole did lead the team in scoring with 27 points tonight. He was 3 for 8 from beyond the arc, shot 50% from the field overall. He was very effective attacking the paint tonight, despite facing a much taller and leaner Timberwolves team. Added 2 assists, had 4 rebounds total. But that turnover at the end, and both him and Draymond, those 2 vitally costly turnovers at the end, cost the Warriors the game. But again, should it have been that close of a game to begin with? I don't think so. I mean, again, you're facing a Timberwolves team that starts 2 7-footers, has a third borderline 7-footer in Naz Reid, and you're responding by sitting most of your tall, athletic players. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And the Warriors were killed on the glass tonight as a result of that. One more time, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but just to remind you as we wrap things up here, Minnesota grabbed 49 rebounds to just 37 for the Golden State Warriors. And for some reason, though, Kerr just keeps wanting to do this small ball, this routine. Oh boy, everyone's saying mic problems. Jesus. Have I been off this whole time? Am I back? Can you folks hear me again? Oh wow. Okay. All right, here we go. So sorry about the issues there. Hope I didn't go vanish on you for too long with the audio problems. But anyway, so one more time, just to rehash in case my audio issues were extensive. Now, someone's saying mic is on and off. It's a cable issue. I might have to switch to a new one. I am so sorry. I cannot believe my mic's been doing this. Shoot. Here, let me. It's just the cable right here. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Yeah, I don't know what's been going on. Sometimes the cable gets funky with me. So what I was going to repeat again. Apparently for the last 10 minutes I've been muted. So just to rehash what I was saying over the last 10 minutes. One more time. Let me grab a drink of water again. Hopefully I can remember what I was saying. I apologize for that. When I don't have a co-host, I should be paying attention to the chat. One more time. Joe, the cable is loose. What I was trying to say is that the Warriors, I guess I'll ask the chat this. Did I already mention the 3 players who should never be on the court together? Yeah, if someone can confirm that with me, please, I will let you know. I mentioned there were 3 players that Steve Kerr should not be playing together. Audio is back for 15 minutes. Oh my God. Well, folks, I'm really sorry. Apparently tonight's show is a disaster for that. The 3 players that the Golden State Warriors, and more specifically Steve Kerr, should not be playing. Oh, Trey Underwood says yes. I already mentioned Lamb, Gary Payton II, and Draymond Green. They just should not be on the floor together for the simple reason that the Warriors are the most efficient when 3 of the 5 players in their lineup are offensive oriented and offensive dominant. You can't have just 2 of your 5 players be offensive threats out there. And the problem is when you have Draymond, who granted offensively is fantastic in terms of passing, in terms of ball handling, in terms of setting screens. I mean, he's not a lethal shooter. Teams let him shoot threes all day wide open. You can't have the 3 players out there being Draymond Green, Gary Payton II, who again is solid, but he's not creating shots for himself, and then Anthony Lamb. You can't do that. Anthony Lamb, as decent of a 3-point shooter as he is, and I know this year he's at one point he was close to 40%. That number is going back down a little bit, reverting to the mean. His career number is closer to 35%. But he doesn't create his own shot. He's not a playmaker. So if you have all 3 of them out there together, you're putting so much pressure on the other 2 to score all your points, and the other team is not stupid. So they're going to just completely gang up. I think the 2 players out there for during that run, this was like late 3rd, early 4th, was Jordan Poole And I don't know if it was Klay was the other player. I don't know if it was if Steph was the other player, but you can't have your 3 of your 5 starters out there, or 3 of your 5 players out there have that amount of offensive deficiencies. You can't do that. It's not going to work. And I just do not get the whole. I just don't get Kerr's lineups. I don't know. This is frustrating. This whole season has been frustrating. I think I was talking again about the fact that Jordan Poole, despite the costly turnover at the end tonight, did have he had 3 turnovers, but offensively he was awesome. He led the team in scoring with 27 points, shot 50% from the field, was 3 for 8 from beyond the arc, which is not horrible, but it's not great either. It's it's you can live with that. That's hovering right at the low 30%, which is the Mendoza line for 3-point shooting. But the turnover thing is it's the veterans doing it. I mean, Jordan Poole had 3 turnovers, Steph had 3 turnovers, Klay had 3 turnovers, Draymond Green had 5 turnovers. You're not going to survive with that, but you're also not going to survive if you're gonna continue to run a small ball lineup out there against a team like Minnesota, who starts 2 7-footers, who has a borderline 7-footer in Naz Reid, and the numbers showed they got killed on the glass tonight. Again, the total rebounds. I said this at the beginning of the show, and I'll repeat it again. Minnesota tonight grabbed 49 rebounds. The Warriors responded with 37, and it shows. And I just don't understand. Again, the Warriors were doing great with Kuminga playing 25, 30 minutes a night, with Moody, even if it's just 8-10 minutes, they were winning with that formula. JaMychal Green was starting to look good. And even in his 3 minutes and 50 some odd seconds, there were a +8. That means for those entire 3 minutes and change he was out there, the Warriors were just outplaying Minnesota. Why did we not see him ever again? I just don't understand it. And a lot of people are writing the team's exhausted, and maybe that's the case. But I also Ken Mamba adds the Kerr's answer for rebounds. Yeah, and the thing is, like, and I don't know if someone heard this or not, I don't mind if Lamb plays. It's just the minutes have to be in that 5. He needs to get the Moody treatment in terms of minutes. Lamb needs to be getting 5 to 10 minutes. Moody should be playing. JaMychal should be getting 10 to 15 minutes, especially a night like this. So anyways, and yes, Shaksam Tamang, you are right. That one mistake in the clutch was actually 2 mistakes. It was Draymond's turnover and then Jordan Poole's turnover. But should the game have been that close? And the Warriors were held to 96 points offensively. So yeah, anyways. All right, folks, I'm sorry about the audio issues tonight. That sucks. I need to pay attention to the chat more often. I just had this stat sheet in front of me that I was going off of. I'm going to be joining Larry Kruger's show. If you want to keep this party going there, tomorrow, Kylan Mills will join me. We'll break it down some more. I didn't get a chance to talk about the whole issue with the Warriors not pursuing a grievance against the Timberwolves. So we'll talk about that tomorrow because that was kind of weird. That was actually really weird. Otherwise, brutal loss. The Warriors are now trailing the number 4 seed Suns by a game. They would have been tied with Phoenix tonight if they had won this game. Instead, they trail the Suns now by a whole game. They trail the Clippers by a half game. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves are just a half game behind the Warriors. But they technically right now own the tiebreaker, because the tiebreaker between the two teams, since they split the season series, is conference record. And the Minnesota Timberwolves right now have a 26-20 conference record. The Golden State Warriors 25-21. One last thing I got to add to before I go. For some reason, the Golden State Warriors third quarter struggles. This has been an issue all year. My friend Larry Kruger brought this up with Steve Kerr during an interview that he did with Kerr a few weeks back on 95.7 The Game, the flagship station of the Golden State Warriors. And Kerr was dismissive about it. Kerr did not think that the third quarter onslaughts that we've been accustomed to, we've been used to for this entire dynasty, Kerr didn't emphasize that as being important. And he also threw his veterans under the bus when he was asked about that, saying that the veterans are older now, whatever that means. But this is the second worst third quarter team in the entire dynasty. The only one that was worse was the 2020 Warriors. And this season now, the Warriors are being outscored and more importantly, losing third quarters by a 34-41-1 clip. What I mean by that is that the Warriors have won third quarters this season 34 times. They've lost third quarters this season 41 times. And then one third quarter was tied in scoring. And if you look at the data, there is such a clear correlation with the Warriors in terms of their third quarter domination and their overall success. The 4 times they won a championship, they were number 1 in the NBA in third quarter differential. And I don't know what's going on there. They got outscored again in the third quarter tonight. I believe it was 24-18. But more distressingly is the fact that 18 third quarter points, 18, that is not a lot. And so the starters are playing a lot of those minutes. Again, Kylan's going to join me tomorrow. If we look at the reigning schedule now for the Golden State Warriors, there's 6 games remaining. 6. Did I mention 6? Those 6 games are a home game against the Pelicans. This is Tuesday. The game's going to be on TNT. A Friday home game against the Spurs. The Warriors have to win both those games. They have to. Then they play a Sunday road game at Denver. And they're probably not going to win that game unless Denver just mails it in and they start resting people getting ready for the postseason, which might be a possibility. To rely on the Warriors to travel to Denver against the best home team in the NBA, against the top seed in the Western Conference, you can't expect a win there. That would just be an absolute bonus if they somehow pull that off. So even if the Warriors win at home against New Orleans and at home against the Spurs, you got to chalk that third game on the road against Denver as a loss. Then they come back home for their final home game of the season to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. Have to win that game, right? And then the final 2 games of the season are on the road at Sacramento. It's going to be an interesting test, by the way. And then their final game of the season, Sunday, April 9th, is in Portland. That is a winnable road game. So Shaksam Tamong writes, oh, whoops, wrong one. You see the Warriors going 5-1 in the last 6 games. Yep. I hope so. So you're saying the one loss will be Denver? David Sass writes, GP2 should get Lamb's minutes, not Kuminga's. Agreed. And you could also say, instead of Kuminga, you could also say Moody, JaMychal Green. I don't know what happened there, but I totally agree with you. Fable JVC writes, the Sac game will be half Warriors crowd. We'll see what happens there. You might be underestimating the Sac crowd, man. They love their basketball. If you forgot or you're too young to remember what Sacramento was like in the early 2000s, man, that city loves basketball. So we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to go join my buddy Larry Krueger. I apologize again for the technical difficulties from the show tonight, but thanks for joining me. Tomorrow, Kylan Mills will join me. I'll tweet out the time of that. We have not established when we're going to be hosting the show, but just follow us on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. That's where we always announce what time we're gonna go on. Brutal loss. Happy Gary Payton II's back. Just don't play those 3 together anymore, Steve. Please, Coach. If it's obvious to me, it should be obvious to you. Like that lineup doesn't work. You can't have Draymond, Anthony Lamb, and Gary Payton II out there together. Your offense is not going to be putting up points with those 3 out there together. Please stop doing that. We'll be back at it tomorrow. 6 games to go. Let's hang in there, Dub Nation. Misery loves company. We're in this together. Thank you. Bye-bye.